The nightmare matchups are back, and with all the title changes, returns, and reshuffling of divisions, it couldn't come at a better time. We've got new champs, familiar faces like Alexander Volkanovski trying to reclaim the throne, and others switching weight classes. And with all of that comes a fresh batch of potential nightmare matchups, opponents that bring the worst possible stylistic headaches for each reigning champion. As always, we'll be rating these threats on a scale from 0 to 10, and we're diving into 4 possible nightmares per division. Let's start where the weight classes do, with strawweight. Honestly, we could skip this division altogether. Nobody right now seems to present a serious threat to Zhang Weili. She's already cleaned out most of the top contenders, and now that she's shored up her wrestling, like we saw in the fight against Tatiana Suarez, there's no one left who feels like a stylistic nightmare for her. If we're really stretching, maybe Virna Jandiroba offers something interesting. But realistically, it doesn't look like anyone in this division is on Zhang Weili's level anymore. Now, onto the flyweight division, where Valentina Shevchenko has reclaimed her title and defended it in her second reign. She's as sharp as ever. An elite striker, strong grappler, with an ice-cold counter game and lightning-fast kicks. She slows the fight down to her rhythm and forces opponents to play her game. But the one fighter who might actually be able to flip that on its head is Natalia Silva. Silva's someone I've been talking about for a while, and after how thoroughly she dismantled Alexa Grasso, she's earned her shot at the title. And she just might be Valentina's toughest test. Silva's movement is going to force Shevchenko out of her comfort zone. Valentina prefers to sit back and counter, but against Silva, she may have no choice but to come forward, press the action, and figure out how to cut off the octagon. Silva matches her speed, might even have a size advantage, and she's hitting her prime, while Valentina could hit that sudden aging curve we sometimes see in fighters. Add to that Silva's excellent takedown defense and elusive footwork, constantly cutting angles, never standing still, and you've got a real problem for Shevchenko's usually linear style. If Valentina can't solve that movement, Silva's going to give her fits. That's why I'd say Natalia Silva brings a solid 7 out of 10 danger level. She can absolutely take that belt. Behind Silva, there's Alexa Grasso. She already has a win over Shevchenko and has gone 3 full fights with her, which means she understands Valentina's rhythm better than most. Her boxing is crisp, and even though it might not hold up as well against someone like Silva, it's still effective against the champion. Then there's Erin Blanchfield. Her grappling could completely change the dynamic of the fight. Valentina usually has the edge on the ground, but against Blanchfield, she'd need to lean more on her striking to fend off takedowns. Definitely not her usual game plan. Erin's physicality, pressure, and jiu-jitsu make her a big threat. And finally, Manon Fiorot. Their previous fight showed Fiorot's size and strength can create problems, especially in the clinch. Early on, she might even win some striking exchanges. But in the grand scheme of things, she's not as dangerous as the others, just a solid contender who might make Valentina work for it. Moving on to bantamweight, where the title situation is, let's just say, debatable. Juliana Peña is technically the champion, but many feel Raquel Pennington won that fight. Peña is gritty, aggressive, and durable, but she's never been particularly polished. She relies more on heart than technique, wild punches, relentless pace, and scrappy groundwork. And whether it's Peña or anyone else holding that belt, there's one nightmare matchup for the entire division. Kayla Harrison. 2-time Olympic gold medalist. Physically imposing, the best grappler in the division, period. Kayla is not just stronger than everyone. She's more athletic, faster than she looks, and surprisingly, technical. She can smash through takedowns, hold top control like concrete, and she throws with real power. People might point to her cardio as a potential weakness, especially over 5 rounds, but even that's speculative. Against someone like Peña, the only real hope might be to drag her into deep water and hope she fades. I'm rating Kayla's danger level at a 9 out of 10. Behind Kayla, Norma Dumont deserves mention. She's bigger and stronger than Peña, with slick counterpunching, well-rounded tools, and good footwork. Exactly the kind of style that neutralizes someone who throws looping strikes and telegraphed takedowns. Peña's offense might just get shrugged off. Then there's Raquel Pennington, who we just saw arguably beat Pena. She's a more technical striker, better in the clinch, and has the kind of takedown defense that forces Pena into awkward, messy exchanges. If they fought again, I wouldn't be surprised if Pennington walked away with a clear decision. And last, there's Ketlen Vieira, a fighter who's like a less polished version of Pennington. She fights with a similar base, but without quite the same refinement. Still, she offers a similar kind of matchup challenge for Pena, sturdy, strong in close range, and decent enough to make it competitive on the feet. From there, we head into the men's flyweight division, where things really start heating up. A lot of fans seem to think that Volk's nightmare matchup is a strong wrestler, but I actually don't agree with that. I don't believe a pure wrestling style is the key to beating someone like Alexander Volkanovski. In fact, I think Volk could do really well against Evloev's wrestling. Even though it would be a competitive matchup, all of these top contenders at featherweight would give Volk a good fight, but the one I'd say is next in line in terms of difficulty is Youssef Zalal. Now, Zalal presents a very different kind of challenge. He's incredibly well-rounded, great everywhere. Long-range striking, slick high kicks, which could be one of Volkanovski's more vulnerable areas, and he's very patient. His reach plays into Volk's rhythm, but because Zalal is so good at keeping his distance and not overextending, he could shut down a lot of the usual openings Volk tends to exploit. And what makes Zalal tricky is that he switches styles mid-fight. Sometimes pressing forward, sometimes sitting back, and that unpredictability can really throw opponents off. He's a sharp striker who's seemingly entering his prime, while Volkanovski, if we're being honest, might be slightly past his. Then we shift to lightweight, where things get really interesting, especially since there's no current champion. So let's look at the two guys fighting for that vacant belt, starting with Ilia Topuria. Ilia is, in my opinion, the best boxer in UFC history. That might sound like a stretch, but hear me out. His wrestling is strong, his Brazilian jiu-jitsu is high level, and when it comes to pocket fighting, no one does it better. When Ilia gets inside, it's almost like an automatic win. He dominates that range. There are probably a few exceptions, but generally speaking, if he gets to his spot in the pocket, you're in trouble. That's how definitive his style is. He also has a great chin. Remember, he took a full power head kick from Jai Herbert, a guy who's 6'1" in this same weight class, and Ilia just ate it, then came back and knocked him out. The only unknown with Ilia is how he'll handle the absolute best of the division. He's not going to be fighting guys like Jai Herbert anymore. He's entering shark-infested waters now. If I had to pick his nightmare matchup, even if it's a fight we'll probably never see, it would be Dustin Poirier. I think Dustin's boxing, chin, and experience make him an extremely tough out for Ilia. But since that fight likely won't happen, let's talk about a fight that is happening. Ilia versus Charles Oliveira. Out of all potential matchups for Ilia, I think Charles Oliveira is the most dangerous. He effectively neutralizes Ilia's wrestling threat. You're not likely to see Topuria shoot on a guy with Oliveira's submission arsenal. But Charles can shoot on Ilia. His wrestling has improved massively. Just look at what he did to Chandler. On top of that, Oliveira has serious knockout power, high kicks that could catch Ilia off guard, and dangerous knees, especially effective against shorter fighters like Topuria. And stylistically, both guys are pressure fighters. They both like to move forward, forcing exchanges. When these two meet, it's going to be like a head-on collision, two freight trains on the same track. It's going to be violent, intense, and unpredictable. I'd rate the level of danger Charles presents to Ilia at a solid 5 out of 10, essentially an even matchup. Next up, we have Arman Tsarukyan. Arman's another really tough test for Ilia. Obviously, his wrestling is top tier, but don't sleep on his striking. He's got dynamic kicks. Again, an area where Ilia has shown some vulnerability. I wouldn't be surprised if Arman lands some heavy shots or even head kicks. He's explosive. Just look at the way he knocked out Joaquim Silva, faking the knee and throwing the right hand. That kind of creativity and speed could be a real threat to Ilia on the feet. And then, of course, there's the ground game. Arman can definitely take him down and make things complicated there too. After that, I'd say Justin Gaethje is next on the list of difficult matchups for Ilia. Gaethje brings serious power and, arguably the best leg kicks in the division. Ilia's heavy lead leg could get chopped down fast, and Gaethje has solid takedown defense to keep things standing. That's a dangerous mix. And here's one that might surprise people: Dan Hooker. Not a name that's typically thrown into conversations about title contention, but stylistically, he could be a real problem for Ilya. Hooker is 6 feet tall with a 75-inch reach. That's massive. That size and range could pose real issues for Ilya trying to close the distance. Plus, Hooker has a granite chin. He's not someone you put away easily. He applies pressure, throws volume, and keeps coming. It could be a lot more competitive than people expect. Then we flip the lens and look at Charles Oliveira from the other side. Who's his nightmare matchup? Well, funny enough, it might just be Ilia Topuria. Topuria has the power to put Charles out if he gets into that close range, and Oliveira's head movement is still a weakness. Even though he's made improvements, I don't think he's slipping. Ilya's punches consistently enough to survive that range. And when you compare Ilya to the rest of the division, he might have the biggest singular advantage over Charles in pocket striking. Guys like Arman or Gaethje, Oliveira can hang with them in most areas. But no one has such a clear edge in one area the way Ilya does in that tight range. That's why I say Topuria is Oliveira's nightmare matchup. Again, I'd rate the danger level at a 5 out of 10, a toss-up. The other fighter I'd include as a tough matchup for Oliveira is Arman Tsarukyan. He's already beaten Charles and showed he can survive the submission attempts. That alone puts him in a unique category. Plus, he's got the wrestling to control Charles in key moments and enough striking to keep it honest on the feet. After Arman, I'd go with Paddy Pimblett. Now, I know this one will raise some eyebrows, but Paddy has real power, a chin that can absorb damage, and he's huge for the division. He may not be as polished as the others, but stylistically, he could hang in there with Charles longer than people think. And finally, Mateusz Gamrot, elite grappling, strong positional control, and good enough to potentially stifle Charles on the mat. When it comes to scrambling and shooting takedowns, Mateusz Gamrot stands out. He's faced off against some of the top grapplers in the UFC and held his own. Now, let's be clear, he's not exactly a striking phenom, but when you think about who could actually survive on the ground with Charles Oliveira, Gamrot might just be that guy. Most fighters get mauled by Oliveira once it hits the mat. Justin Gaethje, for example, gets taken down and submitted. Maybe even easier now than before, because Oliveira's wrestling has gotten better. And Dan Hooker, he's getting submitted, no question. Max Holloway? Same story. Oliveira would likely take him down and finish him. But Gamrot's different. He's one of the very few who might not only survive on the ground, but drag the fight out, shoot for takedowns of his own, and create chaos. Then we move up to the welterweight division, which, let's be real, is the most stacked weight class in the UFC right now. You've got at least 7 legitimate contenders, all hovering around the title picture. It's madness, and at the top of that chaos sits a surprising new champion, Jack Della Maddalena. Not many people expected him to beat Belal Muhammad. I didn't. I thought Belal was going to dominate him, maybe even make it look easy. But he didn't. JDM proved to be way better than most of us thought, and now you have to consider the possibility. This guy might just be the best striker in the entire UFC. It's not definitive, of course. You still have elite guys like Alexander Volkanovski, Ilia Topuria, Alex Pereira, even Magomed Ankalaev if you really want to stretch it. But you can absolutely make an argument for JDM. His boxing is elite for MMA. He's got some of the best footwork I've ever seen. Cuts off angles, like a seasoned pro. The way he closes distance, the way he times combinations and throws kicks. It's all high level. And then there's his killer instinct. When he sees you start to fold, he pours it on. It's almost Diaz-like, but more evolved. Better footwork, more explosive, more power. The way he works the body when you're backed up to the fence, the non-stop combos, it feels like a modern version of that Diaz pressure boxing. And his takedown defense? It's improved massively. You don't defend that many takedowns from someone like Belal Muhammad without having real defensive chops. Earlier in his UFC career, JDM was getting taken down repeatedly. Basil Hafez got him down. Gilbert Burns got him down. But now, when he's fully healthy and dialed in, we're seeing what he's really capable of. Excellent hand fighting, underhooks, wall walking, and even reversing positions. He's hit a new level. But as good as he is, his biggest test might be up next, and that's Islam Makhachev. Islam is, in my opinion, the best fighter in the world right now. He's elite everywhere. Offensively, defensively, on the feet, on the mat. There's nothing. He doesn't do it at a high level. His striking is sharp and technical. He can punch, kick, knee in the clinch, cut off the cage. His wrestling is world-class, his ground control is suffocating, and his submission game is lethal. His chain wrestling is the best we've seen in years, and his power is no joke either. He even took some bombs from Dustin Poirier and just kept coming. Against someone like JDM, who thrives in chaos and striking rhythm, Islam could pose real problems. He can match him technically on the feet and surpass him in the grappling. That's why I'd rate Islam as a 6 out of 10 on the danger scale for JDM. More dangerous than most, but not an unsolvable puzzle. Next up is Ian Garry. Now, this matchup is interesting because Garry doesn't fight to overwhelm or destroy opponents. He fights to neutralize. His entire style is built around control of distance, control of rhythm, control of pace. That's what makes him such a unique threat to someone like JDM, who thrives on openings and momentum. Garry's footwork is slick. He knows how to move in and out, how to use his range, and how to make subtle adjustments. Against JDM, that means fewer clean shots landing, fewer opportunities to get into a flow. What makes Garry dangerous here is that he's comfortable everywhere. He'll jab, kick to the body, shoot takedowns. Not necessarily to get you down, but to disrupt your timing. And then he resets, moves off angle, and takes center again. It's frustrating. That kind of style could take away a lot of JDM's strengths. Garry's understanding of boxing, in particular, is sharp enough that he might be the only welterweight who can truly keep up with JDM in that department. Then we've got Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now this guy is lethal. He's dangerous in every area. Powerful, striking, vicious submissions, all around dangerous. He's not someone you want to give any room to breathe. Against JDM, though, it's a bit of a toss-up. He's got the kicks, he's got the tools, and he's unpredictable. But I think JDM lands the cleaner, more frequent shots over time. I don't see Shavkat taking JDM down or dominating on the ground. He could maybe land something sneaky like he did to Jeff Neal, a standing submission or wild scramble. But otherwise, JDM likely outstrikes him. And then there's Sean Brady. Solid wrestler, good grappler, decent hands. His biggest chance is on the ground. If he can get JDM down early, before the sweat makes it slippery, he has a shot to work his game. He'd have to be way more aggressive than Belal was early in their fight, shoot constantly, and try to grind it out. But overall, I think it plays out similarly to the Belal fight. JDM stuffs the majority of the takedowns, outstrikes him on the feet, and takes the win. Now we move on to the middleweight division, and leading the pack is Dricus du Plessis. This guy is built for MMA. He's got insane attributes: raw strength, knockout power, a chin of granite, and bottomless cardio. His frame is absurdly efficient. Even his guard is frustrating. His arms and shoulders just form a fortress around his face. Punching through it is like trying to find daylight through a brick wall. And on top of that, he can do everything. Punches, kicks, takedowns, submissions, dirty boxing. He's a handful for anyone.